January 26, 1945, near Holtzwihr, France. A brutal winter offered no quarter. An M10 Wolverine tank destroyer erupted in flames, its ammunition threatening catastrophic detonation at any moment. But the remarkable thing wasn't the burning vehicle. It was the man standing on top of it. One man, alone. Second Lieutenant Audie Murphy, 20 years old, 5 feet 5 inches tall, 112 pounds. He stood atop the blazing M10, manning its .50 caliber heavy machine gun, facing a wave of death advancing toward him. Ahead, 6 Panther tanks and approximately 250 elite German infantry pressing the attack. Behind, his wounded comrades retreating, the American defensive line wavering. Between them, just one person, Murphy, standing on a vehicle ready to explode. This wasn't military tactics. This was an act of desperation, of impossible defiance. But it happened, and it changed the course of the battle. The strategic objective was clear: hold the line at Holtzwihr, or watch the entire sector collapse. Murphy's decision to mount that burning steel fortress was the only thing standing between victory and catastrophic defeat. To understand the magnitude of this action, we need to understand the M10 Wolverine, the weapon Murphy transformed into his fortress. Following the German Blitzkrieg's alarming success across Western Europe in 1940, American strategists recognized a critical gap in their armored capabilities. General Leslie J. McNair championed a radical doctrine: dedicated tank destroyers, not main battle tanks, would counter German armor. This philosophy, formalized in U.S. Army Field Manual 18.5, emphasized speed, maneuverability, and powerful guns over heavy armor. The concept: lie in ambush, engage enemy armor from concealed positions, then rapidly relocate. Speed was paramount, armor was secondary. This diverged significantly from European tank design philosophy. The M10, officially the 3-inch gun motor carriage M10, emerged from these requirements in September 1942. Built on a modified M4 Sherman chassis, it featured a powerful 76mm M7 gun capable of penetrating most German tank frontal armor at combat ranges, a .50 caliber M2 heavy machine gun mounted on the turret, road speeds up to 30 miles per hour, weight approximately 32 tons. But it had one critical vulnerability: an open-topped turret, no roof protection. This design offered superior situational awareness, but left the 5-man crew completely exposed to artillery, mortars, and infantry attacks from above. A single mortar round exploding overhead could kill everyone inside. And this was the vehicle Murphy would climb onto, not sitting protected inside, but standing on top of the turret, completely exposed, while it burned beneath him. The M10 Wolverine first roared into combat during Operation Torch in North Africa, 1942. In Tunisia during early 1943, its 76mm gun proved highly effective against Panzer III and IV tanks. A well-aimed shot could disable a Panzer IV from over 1,000 yards. However, the Desert Crucible exposed inherent vulnerabilities. Thin armor, only 25mm on the hull sides, 50mm on the glacis plate, offered inadequate protection against German anti-tank guns. The open-topped turret remained a constant death trap. One M10 commander at El Qatar noted, "We could knock out their panzers, but a single mortar round exploding above us could wipe out the entire crew." As Allied operations moved into Italy in 1943, the M10 faced new challenges. The Tiger I and Panther tanks presented formidable opposition. The 76mm guns struggled against their thick frontal armor. Direct engagements with these heavy tanks were often suicidal. Commanders learned to focus on flanking maneuvers, exploiting the M10's speed while avoiding direct confrontations. By late 1944, having served from Salerno to the Gothic Line, the M10 had forged a reputation as a capable, if fragile, weapon in the Allied arsenal. Over 6,700 units were produced. It was designed for hit-and-run tactics, for ambushes and rapid repositioning. It was never designed for static defense, prolonged exposure, or operation while engulfed in flames. Yet that's exactly how Murphy would use it.
The winter of 1944 brought a profound strategic shock to the Western Front. On December 16th, the Wehrmacht launched its final major offensive, Wacht am Rhein, through the Ardennes. 3 German armies aimed to split Allied forces and seize the vital port of Antwerp. Initially, the attack achieved tactical surprise. American units, stretched thin across extensive sectors, faced overwhelming panzer divisions. A 60-mile salient penetrated Allied lines. Severe winter weather hampered Allied air superiority and logistics. Isolated American garrisons found themselves surrounded, often without adequate anti-tank support. Supplies dwindled. The mission became one of sheer survival. By January 1945, Allied forces had stabilized most of the line, but one critical area remained: the Colmar Pocket in Alsace, France. German forces held this salient, threatening Allied operations. Eliminating this pocket was essential to securing the Rhine approaches and preventing German reinforcement. The village of Holtzwihr sat at a crucial crossroads within this pocket. Its control was vital. It dominated the eastern approaches and provided observation over the flat Rhine plain. The task of holding this ground fell to Company B, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. Among them, 2nd Lieutenant Audie Murphy, already a decorated combat veteran with 18 months of frontline experience across 3 campaigns. Dawn broke on January 26, 1945, with brutal German efficiency. A concentrated artillery barrage, 105mm howitzers and 81mm mortars hammered American forward positions for 15 minutes, designed to suppress and disorient. Then came the main assault. 6 Panther tanks, supported by approximately 250 Panzer Grenadiers, advanced through the snow. These weren't ordinary infantry. They were veterans equipped with MG-42 machine guns and MP-40 submachine guns, tasked with breaking through the American line. The German tactical doctrine emphasized swift combined arms penetration. Tanks suppressed strongpoints while infantry exploited breaches. Their objective: shatter the American position at Holtzwihr and eliminate the salient threatening their logistics. Company B was severely under strength. Barely 40 effective combat soldiers remained from their original roster of over 180. They had 2 M10 tank destroyers in support, positioned to cover the likely German approach. The weight of the German assault was overwhelming. Tracer rounds crisscrossed the frozen air. High explosive shells echoed through the valley. Within minutes, the American line began to buckle under pressure. As the German assault intensified, one of the 2 M10 tank destroyers took a direct hit. A 7.5-centimeter round struck its hull, and within seconds, the vehicle was ablaze. The crew bailed out, wounded and disoriented. The second M10 was disabled shortly after. Track damage rendered it immobile, and its crew retreated to defensive positions. Lieutenant Murphy surveyed the tactical situation from his command post. The scenario was dire. 2 tank destroyers neutralized. German armor advancing unopposed. American infantry falling back under withering fire. The defensive line on the verge of complete collapse. If the Germans broke through here, they would roll up the entire American flank, potentially encircling multiple companies. The Colmar Pocket would remain intact, prolonging the campaign indefinitely. Murphy made his decision. He ran across 50 yards of open ground, under direct German fire, to the burning M10. Flames licked from its engine compartment. Ammunition inside threatened to cook off at any moment. The vehicle's 5-man crew had already abandoned it, standard procedure when a tank destroyer catches fire. Murphy climbed onto the turret. He positioned himself behind the 50 caliber M2 heavy machine gun. Then he grabbed the field telephone still connected to the artillery fire direction center. And he began to fight. Alone.
From atop the blazing M10, Murphy began engaging the advancing German forces with the .5 caliber machine gun. His position was tactically absurd, completely exposed on an open-top turret, standing on a vehicle filled with explosive ammunition while flames spread beneath him. But it was also tactically brilliant, and high rate of fire could reach targets the retreating American infantry couldn't engage. Murphy's fire discipline was extraordinary. He didn't spray wildly. Each burst was controlled, aimed at specific targets. German infantry attempting to flank the position, squad leaders organizing assault teams, machine gun crews setting up supporting fires, officers directing the advance. Simultaneously, Murphy maintained radio communication with American artillery batteries several miles to the rear. Using the field telephone, he called in fire missions, directing 105mm and 155mm howitzer rounds onto German concentrations. Critically, he He brought artillery fire to within 50 yards of his own position, an extraordinarily dangerous tactic requiring precise coordination. The psychological impact on the German assault was profound. Their doctrine assumed a burning, abandoned vehicle. Instead, they faced sustained, accurate fire from what should have been a non-factor. The M10's continued engagement disrupted their combined arms coordination, preventing Panzer Grenadiers from advancing under tank cover. German radio communications intercepted post-battle indicated confusion. The American strongpoint continues resistance despite visible fire damage. Company commanders expressed disbelief that the vehicle remained operational. Murphy fought from that burning platform for nearly 1 hour. Let that sink in. 60 minutes standing on a blazing ammunition depot, completely exposed to enemy fire, engaging 250 enemy infantry and 6 tanks. He expended all ammunition for the .5 caliber machine gun, approximately 800 to 1,000 rounds. He called in multiple artillery fire missions, adjusting fire in real time based on enemy movements. He was wounded in the leg by German return fire but continued fighting. The M10 beneath him grew hotter as fire spread, with ammunition beginning to cook off in sporadic explosions. The tactical mathematics were impossible. One man with a machine gun should not have been able to stop a combined arms assault of this magnitude. But Murphy's actions created a cascading series of disruptions. First, his accurate machine gun fire inflicted immediate casualties. German infantry attempting to advance across open ground were forced to seek cover, fragmenting unit cohesion. Second, his artillery direction devastated German formations as they massed for assault. 155mm high explosive rounds created kill zones that prevented coordinated attacks. Third, and perhaps most importantly, his presence created psychological doubt. German commanders, witnessing such determined resistance from a supposedly neutralized position, began to question whether this was the main American defensive line or a forward outpost masking stronger forces. The German momentum fractured. Their assault, designed for swift breakthrough, bogged down in the face of this single point of unyielding resistance. After approximately 50 minutes of sustained combat, with an estimated 50 German infantrymen killed or wounded and their advance completely stalled, German commanders made the decision to withdraw. The spearhead began to disengage, retreating in disorder back toward their staging areas. Murphy continued firing until the last enemy soldier was out of effective range.
As the last echoes of gunfire faded, an eerie silence settled over the battlefield. Murphy finally climbed down from the M10, his uniform scorched, his leg bleeding from shrapnel wounds. The vehicle, its mission complete, continued to smolder. The terrain before the American line bore the scars of intense combat. Approximately 50 German dead lay scattered across the snow. 3 disabled vehicles marked the furthest point of German advance. The assault had been decisively repelled. Medics rushed to treat Murphy's wounds. He refused evacuation, instead reorganizing his company's defensive positions and coordinating with battalion headquarters for resupply and reinforcement. The tactical impact was immediate. The German offensive in this sector had been stopped cold. The Colmar Pocket's northern flank remained secure. Within days, Allied forces would launch their own offensive, systematically reducing the pocket and forcing German withdrawal across the Rhine. But the human cost of such actions cannot be measured in tactical gains alone. On June 2, 1945, at a ceremony in France, Major General John W. Iron Mike O'Daniel presented Second Lieutenant Audie Murphy with the Medal of Honor, the United States' highest military decoration. Second Lieutenant Murphy commanded Company B, which was attacked by 6 tanks and waves of infantry. Second Lieutenant Murphy ordered his men to withdraw to a prepared position in a woods while he remained forward at his command post and continued to give fire directions to the artillery by telephone. Behind him, to his right, one of our tank destroyers received a direct hit and began to burn. Its crew withdrew to the woods. Second Lieutenant Murphy continued to direct artillery fire, which killed large numbers of the advancing enemy infantry. With the enemy tanks abreast of his position, Second Lieutenant Murphy climbed on the burning tank destroyer, which was in danger of blowing up at any moment, and employed its .56 caliber machine gun against the enemy. He was alone and exposed to German fire from 3 sides, but his deadly fire killed dozens of Germans and caused their infantry attack to waver. The enemy tanks, losing infantry support, began to fall back. For an hour, the Germans tried every available weapon to eliminate Second Lieutenant Murphy,
but he continued to hold his position and wiped out a squad which was trying to creep up unnoticed on his right flank. This action was the capstone of an extraordinary combat record. By war's end, at age 21, Murphy had earned Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, French Legion of Honor, Belgian Croix de Guerre. He was the most decorated American combat soldier of World War II.
Murphy's action at Holtzwihr exemplified both the M10 Wolverine's capabilities and its fundamental design contradictions. The 3-inch gun motor carriage, M10, was designed for hit-and-run tactics and ambush warfare, not for static defense or prolonged exposure. Its thin armor, maxing at 50 millimeters on the turret front, offered minimal protection. Its open-topped turret, while providing excellent visibility, left crews vulnerable to everything from artillery to grenades. Military historian Samuel W. Mitchum, Jr. noted, "The M10 was an interim solution, a necessary stopgap until heavier firepower became available." By 1944, German armor had evolved beyond the M10's design parameters. Its 76 millimeter gun struggled against Panther and Tiger frontal armor. This drove development of more heavily armed successors, like the M36 Jackson with its 90 millimeter cannon. Yet Murphy's use of the M10 revealed something profound. Vehicle capabilities are ultimately limited not by their design specifications, but by the will and skill of those who operate them. He transformed a burning, abandoned tank destroyer into an effective weapon system through sheer determination and tactical acumen. The M10 served from 1942 to war's end, with over 6,700 units produced. It saw combat across North Africa, Italy, France, and Germany. While it was eventually superseded by more capable vehicles, its widespread deployment and adaptability established it as a critical asset for Allied armored forces. Lessons from the M10 service, its vulnerabilities, its innovative applications, its role in combined arms operations, directly shaped post-war armored vehicle design and doctrine. It remains a compelling case study in the evolution of mobile warfare. Audie Murphy's war didn't end in 1945. Like many combat veterans, he brought the war home with him, in his memories, his nightmares, his psychological scars. After the war, Murphy became a Hollywood actor, starring in over 40 films, including To Hell and Back, the biographical account of his war service. He became a symbol of American heroism, appearing on magazine covers and at patriotic events. But privately, Murphy struggled. He suffered from what we now recognize as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, though in the 1940s and 50s it was called battle fatigue or shell shock, if acknowledged at all. He experienced nightmares, insomnia, depression, and moments of profound anxiety. Remarkably, Murphy became one of the first prominent American figures to speak publicly about combat-related psychological trauma. In a 1949 article for Life magazine, he discussed his nightmares and emotional struggles. He advocated for better mental health support for veterans, testifying before Congress about the need for improved VA mental health services. This advocacy was in many ways as courageous as his battlefield actions. In an era when mental health issues carried significant stigma, particularly for military veterans, Murphy's willingness to discuss his struggles publicly helped legitimize PTSD as a real, treatable condition. Murphy died in a plane crash on May 28, 1971, at age 45. He was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. His gravesite remains the second most visited at Arlington, after President John F. Kennedy.
The action at Holtzwihr on January 26, 1945, transcends a mere tactical engagement. It represents something fundamental about human behavior under extreme duress, and offers several enduring lessons. First, individual agency in warfare. Murphy's decision to mount that burning M10 was not part of any tactical doctrine or battlefield manual. It was an improvised response to a deteriorating situation, made by a junior officer exercising initiative in the absence of higher-level guidance. His actions demonstrate how individual decisions at the tactical level can have strategic consequences far beyond their immediate scope. Second, the psychological dimension of combat. The German assault force possessed overwhelming material superiority: 6 tanks, 250 infantry, against approximately 40 American soldiers. Yet they withdrew, not because they were physically incapable of advancing, but because Murphy's resistance created doubt and disrupted their operational tempo. The psychological impact of his defiance outweighed the mathematical calculus of force ratios. Third, the human cost of heroism. Murphy's action, while undeniably effective, also highlights the immense personal toll such extreme combat exacts. His subsequent struggles with PTSD underscore that victory in combat is complex. Battlefield success can coexist with profound psychological injury. Modern military doctrine increasingly recognizes this duality, emphasizing mental health support alongside tactical training. Fourth, doctrine versus reality. The M10 was never designed for Murphy's application. Its doctrine emphasized mobility and ambush tactics, yet Murphy employed it as a static firebase, standing fully exposed on its turret. This deviation from intended use proved decisive. It suggests that rigid adherence to doctrine can be less important than adaptive thinking in fluid combat situations. Finally, the limitations of individual heroism. While Murphy's actions were extraordinary, they also represented a failure of systemic defense. The fact that a single officer was forced into such desperate action indicates that Company B's defensive preparations and support were inadequate for the threat they faced. Individual heroism should never be the primary line of defense. It emerges when conventional systems fail. Murphy's story continues to be studied at military academies worldwide. The U.S. Army includes his action at Holtzwihr in leadership training curricula, emphasizing decision-making under pressure, initiative, and moral courage.
The image endures. A 112-pound, 20-year-old officer standing alone on a burning tank destroyer, engaging overwhelming enemy forces for an hour, refusing to yield, despite wounds, flames, and impossible odds. This wasn't superhuman. Murphy wasn't invincible. He was terrified. He later admitted as much. The M10 beneath him was seconds from catastrophic ammunition detonation throughout the engagement. He was wounded. He was alone. He had every rational reason to abandon that position. But he didn't. And that choice, that refusal to accept defeat when defeat was the only logical outcome, made all the difference. Murphy once said, "I'll tell you what bravery really is. Bravery is just determination to do a job that you know has to be done." At Holtzwihr, he saw what needed to be done. The line had to hold. His men had to be protected. The German advance had to be stopped. So he climbed onto that burning fortress and fought. The M10 Wolverine was designed to hunt tanks. On January 26, 1945, Audie Murphy transformed it into something else entirely, a symbol of defiance, a testament to human will, and proof that sometimes one person standing in the right place at the right moment can change everything.
That burning steel fortress and the man who refused to abandon it turned the tide.